Just some housekeeping here. Sorry. Just some housekeeping. If you are a delegate or an alternate, please sign in. We need to get the signatures so we can have a roll call. Delegate or alternate? Also, if you're a delegate or alternate and you want mileage reimbursement at the end of the meeting, there's 2 pages down there that you need to fill out and then give back to us. W-9 and the mileage. That's for delegates and alternates. If you would, please also silence your cell phone.
We got that grant form for like our training.
I'll try to get it with you.
Yeah.
Again, all delegates and alternates that are here, did you sign in? Yes.
Sorry?
Dave, make sure you sign in. Kate.
Which boards do I take first?
Movers and shakers. I am a shaker, yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Are you a full member delegate?
Right here.
Oh, just got a Since you're official. Press the button, it turns green, you talk real loud. When it's red, you don't. Thank you, Chief.
delegate, or if you're an alternate here for a delegate. And then when you're done, look it back off and let everybody hear everything around you. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us bow. Let us bow our heads, O sovereign ruler of the universe, who art the Lord of hosts and the God of peace. Without thee, our efforts are vain. Continue thy blessings upon us and our families, we pray thee, and guide us during our deliberations. We beseech thee, O God, to bless the dependents of our departed comrades and to comfort all who gave their loved ones to our nation's cause. Thus we ask thee, the children, families, and staff of our national home, and help us to fulfill our duty toward them. Continue our favor upon our order, and help us to provide or to practice the spirit of true comradeship both in our councils and with the world at large. Enable us to better the community in which we live through our devotion to duty as citizens. We'll now have a moment of silent prayer for our departed comrades and for those missing in action and those held as prisoners of war. These and all other necessary blessings we ask of thee, mighty ruler of the universe. Amen.
Amen. Let's do the roll call. When you hear your name, please sound off. American Legion 113, Ron Shell. Here. Alternate, Anthony Barton. American Legion 126, Tim Connell. Here. Alternate, Craig Gates. American Legion 199, Ron Swain. Here. Wes Sterling. Here. American Legion 214, Larry Meisenheimer. Here. No alternate. American Legion 307, Don Shire, delegate. Alternate, David Johnson. Here. American Legion 354, delegate, Earl Watts. Here. Alternate, Josh E. Young. Here. Hey Josh, can you come sign in? American Legion 365, Larry Rose. Alternate, Wayne Powers. American Legion 435, delegate, David Coble, Here. Alternate, Mike Hardison. American Legion 439, Ken Morales. There. Alternate, Brian Windsor. American Legion 564, John Alton. Alternate, Dennis Fuller. Here. American Legion 665, Catherine Coates. Here. Alternate, James Slepper. Here. American Legion 708, Brett Lehman. Here. Alternate, Tim Schomer. American Legion 794, delegate, Chris Johnson. Here. Alternate, Phil Stevens. American Legion 1167, delegate, Richard Leichenberg. Alternate, Richard. Can you sign in too? Alternate, Vernon Cunningham. Here. AMVETS 51, Christopher Miller.
Aye.
Alternate, no alternate. Betts 204, no certification. DAB 53, Harry Shepherd. Here. Alternate David Ford. DAB 90, Delegate David Cotton. Alternate Terry Keel. Marine Corps League 1160, Delegate Mark Nelson. Alternate Glenn Hyman. BFW 976, Delegate Anthony Avers. Alternate Tim O'Donnell. BFW 1299, Larry Miller. Alternate Richard Dickover. BFW 1300, James Shuck. Alternate David Huniak. BFW 1308, Steve Capico. Alternate Brad Young.
Present.
BFW 2222, Delegate Ronnie Hicks.
Here.
Alternate Vernon LeClaire.
Here.
BFW 2859, Scott Hirsch.
Here.
Alternate Leroy Duncan. BFW 5691, Alonzo Skipper.
Here.
Alternate Theodore Jackson.
Absent.
BFW 5694, Kate Rogers. Alternate Mike Vogel.
Here.
BFW 7678, Chris Miller. Alternate Tim Brown. Having read the roll call, we have 23 delegates and alternates present. We have a quorum. Conduct the business of the Veterans Assistance Commission second quarter meeting. Next item, there was a stack of papers or packets down here. In the packet papers, you should have gotten the second quarter financial report. Anybody else need one like Josh?
Yeah,
Right down,
I
he's
need
running
two
one.
copies though. We get one of each.
Yes. No, those. Oh, yeah. Anybody else need a copy? You can write me up one. All right, so the first page that I'm looking at is the second page. That's just the mission, staff members, office information. Third page, on the back is the financials. What was levied. The top. The special revenue fund. The next category. The two below that, the bank account, $1,404.29. The checking account, $6,145.97. Next page is the administrative services for quarter two. That's the column I'm looking at. Cable television, that's just not cable television, it's internet. $194.16, contingencies, $90.30, contractual services, $42,070, dues and memberships, $15, internet services, $60.82, skipping down to outreach, $183.43, postage, $32.76, service contract, $681.40, staff training, $101.28. Telephone expenses, $441.82. Travel related, $112.82. for $112.86, for a total of $43,254.27. Page 5 is the interim. Sorry, guys. Page 5, financial assistance. Top categories, veterans assistant, 25, vouchers issued 74. Quarter 2 column, contingencies 1,500, electricity $4,413.85, food $4,080.44, funeral and burial 1,800, gas $359.89, incidentals personal $4,295.41, jumping down to outreach $742.50, vet supplies $597.41, shelter $6,018.20, water $471.85, for total assistance $24,279.55. The last page is just our outreach, our weekly outreach information. And then it's again crisis information. Any question on the second quarter financial report?
What are the contractual services, administrative services?
So contractual services could be anything from legal fees, that's what those primarily are. Accounting, if we have to do any outside accounting, like we engage with a software vendor or some other vendor outside. A motion? Another question?
A second. Brad, I was just wondering how that new program's coming. Weren't you working on a new program?
Yeah.
How's that coming along?
So they're getting us the first draft sometime around July 11th. So I'll get my first look at it then. But I've had a series of meetings. Yep. Give them around. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Item 3, information deemed activity of interest to the commission since the last meeting. So the DAV Transportation Network, for those of you guys who know, that's managed through the DAV in conjunction with the VA. The coordinator, who was there for close to, I think, over a decade, is moving, so that program is being rebuilt, and they're looking for volunteers. So there is a meeting, initial meeting with the VA, the 22nd. It's going to be directly following our weekly meeting at Woodlands, which was on the last page of the packet. That's just going to be this initial discussion to see if we can get volunteers and to see how we can support the VA and DAV to get volunteers. And then we'll go from there. We'll probably have another meeting after that to put on an event to try to get volunteers interested in driving. So if you're interested in that and you want more information, please attend that meeting. Item B, we have one staff on leave, Jeff Sherwood. Item C, Administrative Assistant Devin Daniels passed his accreditation exam, and he is in the process of getting fingerprinted right now for his access to the VA portal. And then we hired 2 administrative assistants, Michelle Finline and Brett Sandoval. Unfinished business, next, none. guys that are delegates and alternates in the post should have received a packet. It was mailed out, I think, 29th or 30th of May. If you did not receive one, and you want to follow along with a lot of information to read right this second, but I had copies up here. Looks like that many people didn't grab them, but
Brad, are you all read through all this?
We're gonna go-
Grab a couple of my post numbers.
what's
Are you
that?
going to read through this? Okay, I'm going to grab a couple of my post numbers just so they can follow along, if that's all right.
Yeah, we're going to go through the one-page summary and stuff.
Anybody else need one while I'm running around? Yeah.
So, in the packet, of course, with a letter, cover letter, and then behind that is a one-page summary. That's kind of what I'll be going down. And then that corresponds to the various portions of the statute that was passed by the legislature amending the Military Veterans Assistance Act, which is the very last portion of that packet. And then this one-page summary is just the highlights of the areas that may have changed. You guys can read through it. That's kind of what I'll allow kind of questions and different stuff on. And then if you have other questions, more in-depth questions, you can go to the other supporting documents for the bylaws, and then we'll just go down and I'll kind of explain the one issue that we kind of need to discuss is kind of unanswered or was kind of left out there for you guys to discuss. And if you had any other questions after that, then of course, we can talk about them here as well. I know it's a lot. For those of you guys who are not delegates and alternates or guests here, this would be the first time you're getting this, so we're not expecting you to read through it, but everybody else hopefully had a chance to read through it. So, we put together the bylaws, the draft, and then this one-page summary. So, if you're reading it, and you're going down, it outlines where you find it at in the MBAA. The MBAA is that last document, which is the state law. So there's two things that are under consideration tonight, which is the bylaws and then the policy adoption. The other two things are supporting documents to help you kind of navigate the law and maybe an easier method. And it's kind of like you gotta, if you want to look at the one-page summary, then you're gonna have to go back to that specific section, paragraph, etc., in the MBAA. And then in the bylaws as well. So I'm looking at right now the one-page summary. So that would have been, I think, the second page. So this is what I'm going to read. The following is intended to provide a one-page guide to the key points of the three interrelated documents that I just talked about: the bylaws, the policies, and then the memorandum of law. VA's response to the VAC, MC, Madison County, to the Military Veterans Assistance Act, MVA Amendment, House Bill 2369. The points presuppose a goal to avoid violations of the new requirements, thus keeping the AG out of the VAC of Madison County business. Memorandum of law is fully sourced explanation of all points and positions suggested to be adopted by Veterans Assistance Commission of Madison County. So we put that up there. The AG had a lot to do with the drafting and the redrafting of this law. It is my contention, and I asked for it leading up to this many months to be a part of this conversation that happened at our state association, and we just didn't get invited, or it was done by only a select few people. And the association is just that. It's an association. It's an education and training association. I was on that board for the state association for our BACs. I resigned from that board primarily as a result of what happened as a result of us kind of being left out of this discussion, considering that Madison County had a lot to do with a lot of the court cases that positively changed the fabric of the military kind of landscape for veterans across the state of Illinois. And then they passed an original amendment to the Military Veterans Assistance Act, which we were fine with. It just cleaned up some language. It didn't significantly alter it. And then they came back with the trailer bill after the legislature had passed it. And then that's where we felt that it went off the rails. And this is our attempt to put it back on the rails with using what we've learned over the last 8-9 years of working through this Military Veterans Assistance Act. So, item 1 there, the BAC MC does not have to give the AG anything without a court order. That's a kind of up there. If they want something from us, they have to get it to a court order. Similar to the new NDAA, the Illinois Supreme Court has ruled that the AG must establish probable cause of either these sections, and this was their language putting in there, Section 8, 9, 10A, 10B, 10C, has been violated prior to the VAMC, Madison County or any VAC, being required to obey the AG subpoenas for request. And then there's the case law. So what we did is we went down, and here is the kind of summary. So one of the things that we are required to do is submit an annual report to the governor. Already done, always has been done. Many of you guys have been around. We do that every annual meeting. Goes to the governor. One of the changes now is that it also goes to the county board, but we also, for the county board chairman, where we always posted that, and the link has always been available. Item B, Section 9 of the NDAA, Article 2 of the new bylaws addresses 4 areas involving hosts and their delegates. So this is for you guys. Are the following: the host is the member, and the delegate and alternate are the members' representatives. That's you guys here tonight, representing the post. The post commander must certify the delegate and alternate. Only delegates or alternates in their stead will vote on membership matters. Each post gets 1 representative to vote, and although inapplicable, the VAMC will recognize coalitions of the same VSO. Item 2, no one other than the superintendent may act or bind the commission between membership meetings. There's the articles where those appear in the NDAA. Board of Directors, the executive board, as you previously knew it prior to the amendment, is no longer authorized to act for the commission between membership meetings. That's reflected in the bylaws now. The superintendent and the VA, I'm just going to say VAC, staff cannot be delegates or alternates. Then in parentheses, where it's reflected in bylaws. The president, elected by the membership, files his or her annual evaluation of the superintendent, which is affixed to the membership meetings, or membership annual meeting minutes, and where it is in the bylaws. That is a new change. And once again, the legislature, they put that in there, but they didn't give any other guidance other than that. Item 5, superintendent can now be removed if 3 different VSOs file written requests for such. Bylaws, Article 2, Section 6A and 9E, subparagraph 9E, give the procedure for filing such requests and for calling the vote of the membership on the issue. Removal requires a vote from a majority of the full commission membership. Implicit in this process is an opportunity for the superintendent to present his or her case to the membership before the vote, also known as due process. See bylaws, Article 5, Section 5. That is the one, so I just want to pause here. So that's the one unanswered question, and that's where I have to come to you for clarification. So they didn't clarify whether it had to be 3 of the same post, right? 3 VFWs, or does it have to be 1 VFW, 1 American Legion, and 1 DAV, or 2 VFWs and 1 American Legion, or 2 American Legions and 1 DAV? So that is where I need you guys to help me decide, right, how you guys want that to work. My opinion is that it would need to be 1 of each, which primarily in Madison County is going to be AMVETs, or I'm sorry, American Legion, AMVETs, VFWs, DAVs, and Marine Corps Leagues. So it could be any combination of those as long as it's 1 from each different one to make up the 3. What that would prevent is from any one organization kind of teaming up against the superintendent without the others knowing or doing something in the background that's kind of a little shady or something. Or they would have to go to each one, so if it's like a DAV, an American Legion, or VFW, and all 3 of them agree that the superintendent needs to be removed, the odds are that that superintendent probably needs to be removed, right? And then you're going to have 3 different posts, take it back to their membership and explain what's going on, and then they're going to bring that to a call for a vote before the full commission. Does that make sense? Did I explain that right?
Do you need a motion on such, or
Well,
how are you gonna do this?
So, I mean, we can discuss it, we can stop right here and discuss it, and then what you guys vote on, whichever way you want to go tonight, will be reflected in the bylaws. Because if you're looking at the bylaws for consideration tonight, then we would need to know that answer so that we can place them in the bylaw. Place that, whatever you guys decide.
I make a motion, if we're gonna go and do it tonight, it's gotta be 3 different organizations.
So 3 different, can you hit your little button there?
I'm sorry. Is that better?
And state your name, man.
Sorry about that. I don't like microphones. I got a loud mouth.
Sorry.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that 3 different organizations has to do it, not 3 individual, like 3 VFWs. It's gotta be a VFW, DAV, American Legion. That's the way it should be.
And I'll second.
Who was second? Chris Johnson. Any discussion on the motion? Any?
Yeah, I did go for 35. The one thing I would say wouldn't necessarily be necessary to have all the different organizations, because it's going to come for a vote anyway. So 3 VFWs, 3 American Legions, you know, if it's a problem specific to the VFW or specific to the American Legion, whatever that may be, they would then have to convince DAV or someone else if they have the same type of problem. But that would be necessary if it's going to come to a vote anyway. So 3 VFWs get together and say, no, we want to get rid of the superintendent. It doesn't automatically happen. It comes to a vote, which there will be discussion anyway. So it can be voted down by the other organizations.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's a necessary constriction. I see why it would sound good, but I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's a good point. We brought that up, but so yeah, so it would be brought back like we talked about before the full commission, right? The problem is I mean, look around. I'm proud that everybody's here tonight. And many of you guys are guests, first-time guests, but it would be brought before the full commission of those present, right? So a lot of the times, if it happens at a special meeting or something, a lot of people might not show up, or the delegates or alternates from maybe the DAVs might not show up. Like we don't have representation from, you know, say DAV tonight, and that vote was happening tonight, then they might be left out of the picture totally, and not even be aware of the circumstances. So that was kind of the reasoning behind that, and the thought process behind that.
I can see that.
Anybody else?
Larry Miller, W. 1259.
All right.
All right. I think there should be 3 separate posts. We have 2 DAV chapters.
Yes.
We got 1 AMVETS chapter,
Yes.
1 Marine Corps league. We got a ton of Legion and VFW. I think that we should have it as veterans organization posts as opposed to 3 VFW, 1 of each organization.
Bradley, hopefully this will never happen, but if it should happen, will a special letter be sent out to the delegates first? Okay. Will a letter be sent out to the delegates first on a special meeting for a special vote on reference to the superintendent being taken out of his office? Number one, if we have a special vote and everybody's here and everybody votes, what difference does it make if it's a DAV or if it's a VFW or it's a Legion? If we're coming to the meeting to vote, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I'll just pause there. This is another area, like I said, when we started analyzing this, that it didn't really make sense. Because on one hand, throughout the entire history of the NDAA, we were always at-will employees. I was always an at-will employee. And if you guys came in tonight and you said, you're out of here. I'm out of here. But now we have conflicting things in the statute that says, that superintendent, we're all at-will employees, but here's how you remove a superintendent. So that didn't make sense to us. But this is what the law says now, so we have to. So I agree that you guys can come together. I think it would be easier to direct you into the path, the whole other, in the bylaws, on the process, I guess you could say, like how that would go down. It has to go down between a mailing, and yes, all the delegates and alternates in the commission would be noticed up, I guess you would say. That answer your question?
But in the same sense, you were talking about having 3 different, would it really matter? I think it would, because now you're basically, in his sense, you're putting the guy on trial. And it wouldn't be fair to him just because one organization decides, hey, we're going to do this. I mean, if that happens, you're just putting him on trial like every time that wants to happen. So I would have to go with, the individual, the 3 multiple organizations.
Like I said, sorry.
Okay, I was doing some looking in here, and we're talking about section 6, right? Of Article 4. It as it stands right now, it says the president is the sole person responsible for annually evaluating the superintendent.
What are you talking? We're on item 5. Other one. Sorry. You good? All right. Was there another question, or we good? John? You're good.
I did have a question. I'm more leaning towards the terminology. So I have a question. I'm more leaning towards the terminology. Veteran Service Office, VSO, it's anybody. It's any group. And we know it's, you're saying it comes to like putting the superintendent on trial. However, the due process is going to catch all of it. I agree with the gentleman there that it would require a majority vote with something as serious as bringing the superintendent to be removed. You would think that would go high on the priority list of most of the VSOs to attend, especially if given enough time. Something of a serious matter wouldn't simply be held at a special meeting or something done where you're going to have a small quorum, because you need a certain number for quorum anyway to have this vote. If we make it one of each, it's almost like we're amending the due process before we even allow due process to begin.
So if you read the bylaws, it clarifies it in there the way that process would not just those three get together and they bring it before the commission and then it's done deal. No, it's a whole, like you said, it's a whole series of due process along the way. But once again, like I said, it doesn't really make sense, so, bottom line, no matter which way you guys vote tonight, if you guys come in next month and you say, you're out here, it's at will, then now we got this question. So that's why I had to bring it up, and that's why I'm paused here. So I appreciate you guys' discussion. Anything else? Hey.
Brad, could you clarify what VSO means in this context?
Sure, Veterans Service Organization. That would be the VFWs, American Legions, Marine Corps Leagues, AMVETS, TAVs. Thank you. Anyone, those are the ones in our county. Other counties have different ones. Ron. Sorry.
On the three, I agree with this, and the reason I do bigger time is because you count up, there's more American Legions in the county than there is VFWs or whatever. So the American Legions would be the three, they can gang up, and your due process probably go away. So I agree that it should be a VFW, American Legion, free as an organization. Thank you.
Anyone else? Skip.
Yeah, Brad, so Skipper, Post Delegate, past Post Commander. So when we go to our district meetings, we have multiple posts in these meetings. And a lot of times discussion happens during these meetings. I am in favor of 3 separate organizations if it would come down to it. I think having several posts in one room, just talking and things happen or whatever, I do like the thought of 3 separate organizations. Thanks.
Ron Cubiani, Post 113, American Legion. I just want to say I agree with that as well. This way it gives all the organizations a chance to bring whatever they might be angry about or whatever together with other posts and maybe even come to a decision to just, kill it right there and not waste everybody's time for something that might not be necessary. So this way, if we have 3 different separate organizations discuss the situation, I think it might actually help avoid maybe a lot of problems in the future.
Earl.
Even though you have these 3 organizations to determine whether or not you're going to get rid of the superintendent or not, what matter of how you're going to prove the fact that the superintendent is doing something wrong, as it is now, you don't have no way of evaluating the superintendent because you're not at any of the meetings, you don't know what the superintendent's doing. How are you going to evaluate the superintendent to say that he's not doing his job? And just to come along and say, well, we're going to get rid of it. It has to be some provisions in there to way to evaluate you in order to get rid of it. That's the way I've always seen it as manager. If I'm going to relieve somebody, you have to have some facts. What procedure, you said there's a procedure. What is the procedure going to be used for these 3 organizations to come together to do this?
It's in the bylaws. Like, it's laid out in there, the notice, when they have to send out notice, how far in advance they would have to send out notice to a special meeting maybe. And then it's got to run just like a public meeting. And then we would have to post it out and then give people the time to go to their post and show up with their delegates and alternates and stuff like that. But I go back to the legislature put some of this stuff in but didn't give us any guidance. That's why we're having this discussion. And to be honest with you, this is the one area of the law that was added anyway. It's not clear. So this is why we're having this discussion.
Yes, I think that goes back to paragraph 4, where I said before that the president does an annual evaluation, and we receive that evaluation as delegates. Am I correct?
It just says, the law says the superintendent will be evaluated annually. It doesn't, that's it, the law. And so, yes, it doesn't say who, it doesn't say what means, But,
Does it foresee the president, elected by the membership,
yeah,
evaluates?
but that would be the logical person, like the superintendent would communicate with on a regular basis. Like Ronnie, I communicate with Ronnie on a regular basis. So if he knows there's something going wrong wonky with me, then he has the ability to go to everybody else.
And then we as delegates of the post, or the post would receive that evaluation.
Yep.
And if we see something wrong, then we can start the process.
Yes. So, you know, like we're doing it right now, right? So we did the financials. Over the last couple of months, we showed where the people that attended the last couple of meetings, we showed it where the county keeps all of the record of all the financials, right? And we have Tim Morales, our treasurer. If he goes on there and logs into the website and sees something wonky, then he would have, he has an obligation to report it and say, hey man, there's $150,000 of money missing, right? And then that's where it would kind of kick off some of these other chains of events. You know, money missing, stuff like that is probably the higher level, right? That, I mean, but in my opinion, if that's the case, there shouldn't be a 3-panel meeting. You guys should come in and fire the superintendent, right? I mean, go to jail. Not pass go. But yeah, and you know, it kind of conflicts with that at will, right? I mean, I see their point. It's there to protect them. So Ronnie or somebody can't come in and say, I don't like the color of your shirt today, superintendent. You know, it's not American Legion red and blue, or you know, or whatever. So, you know, green, whatever they wanted that day.
If you excuse me, I'm not an author or delegate. I just thought I'd come up and make a point here, is that this is really just a mechanism to create the situation to happen for the commission. This is not really, nothing in there states that there has to be any wrongdoing. Nothing in there states that there has to be a grievance. This is just a mechanism for causing it to happen. So the mechanism is what's in question. Whether or not there's an actual problem or evaluations or anything like that really isn't really even a part of this question. It's the mechanism that's being discussed.
Anybody else? One? Skip?
Yeah. So I did have one question, and I got tied to base, so I wasn't able to make the phone calls, but on the one-page summary, number 4, it says the president, elected by the membership, files his or her annual evaluation for the superintendent, which is affixed to the membership annual meeting minutes. So, reading that, and I was asked a couple questions about this also, coming into the meeting. It says the president, elected by the membership, files an evaluation on the superintendent. So is it one person that's evaluating you? That's the question that was asked by the membership. So reading it, it kind of sounds like that, but I didn't know if you could possibly.
We've kind of skirted the edges with a lot of this stuff. What I mean by that, to get to it in a shorter fashion, is like we put some goals out there, right? And then we evaluate those goals. We come in here and we talk about those goals. I talk to the president about different goals that, you know, like this year, we've heard it from you guys. You guys want us supporting the American Legion, some of their things that they're doing and some of the VFWs they're doing. And then you guys come in and tell me that in this meeting, and I just say, you know what, screw it, Skip, I don't care about you, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it. Right? Right. But then you guys, that's what would be in that report. You know, the commission asked the superintendent to do X, Y, Z last year, and he didn't do it. Right? I mean, doesn't play well with others. Right? Yeah, it doesn't play well with others. Well, that's in my VA award letters. You don't want it's already been established. No. But yeah, so I think that question would be a work in progress, right? One year the goals may be more challenging than another year, right? I mean, during COVID, right, we had a lot of stuff that all the rules went out the window. So, but yes, the evaluation, what what that would be like, I think is going to be worked out in future meetings.
Can I rebut real quick? So when this was brought up by a couple of my post members, the concern that they wanted me to bring to the meeting was, say if somebody that you're good friends with, they're evaluating you, and they're like, well, he's doing a great job every year, and you're like causing chaos or whatever it may be. They said that their concern was, instead of having one person, maybe like 3 different people that, they can evaluate together to give us a more clear picture about what's going on. It's nothing negative, it's just the way it was worded, and it's like, well, okay, so get a little clarification on that. But that's why we're
Yes, that's why we're talking about this, because the legislature didn't give us any clarification. They said superintendent will be evaluating. That's right. But where I caution people is, we've all come from a military environment. If you made it past NCO, you know how a lot of the times people rise to only the level of what they know they're being evaluated by. Same way with the OER, the Officer Evaluation Report. On the officer side, I spent a lot of time looking at OERs that were boilerplates, everything like that. In my case, I shoot high for a lot of goals, right? And I may hit some of them, I may not. But that, if anybody would call, say, Ronnie Hicks, I'm sure he's got his cell phone open to everybody. If you don't have it, I'll give it to you after the meeting. But Ronnie's filled a lot of calls over the last 7-8 months, probably hundreds of hours. So, and the previous president, Tim, really dedicated. And once again, if you feel like the president is doing what Skip says, then guess who you remove at the next annual meeting when they're all up for a vote?
El Presidente.
You get rid of the president, right?
We're good, Ron.
All right. Any other questions? I know we jumped back to item 4 and 6.
So can we make a motion, or is there already a motion on the floor to
I think the last motion was to do
one of each? Okay. If there's a motion, I'd like to second it.
Already been seconded.
Or second it?
Yeah. We're good. All in favor?
So that it's clear that it's not one of each VSO, it's 3 different VSOs.
3 different VSOs.
Could we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Sure. American Legion 113, Ron Chioda.
Yay.
American Legion 126, Tim Kahn.
Yes.
American Legion 199, Ron Swin.
Yes.
American Legion 214, Larry Meisenheimer.
Yes.
American Legion 307, David Johnson.
Yes.
American Legion 354, Earl Watts.
Yes.
American Legion 435, David Cosmo.
Yes.
Am I saying that right?
Cool.
Colvin, sorry. American Legion 439, Tim Morales.
Yes.
American Legion 564, Dennis Bowler.
Yes.
David, yes.
You can put your my name all day long. American Legion 665, Catherine Coates.
Yes.
American Legion 708, Brett Lehman.
Yes.
American Legion 794, Christopher Johnson.
Yes.
American Legion 1167, Richard Leiden.
Aye. Yes.
American Legion 54, Christopher Miller.
Aye. Yes.
DAV 53, Terry Shepard.
Yes.
VFW 1299, Larry Miller. No. VFW 1300, VFW 1308, Bradley Young.
No.
VFW 2222, Ronnie Hicks.
Yes.
VFW 2859, Scott Frisch.
No.
VFW 5691, Lonzo Skipper.
Yes.
VFW 5694, Kate Broadhurst.
Yes.
Roll call vote having been completed, the motion passed. Moving on to the next item there, where were we at, 6 or 7? 6. New section 9, subparagraph F, requires new bylaws. That's what these are. These are new bylaws. They're not amended bylaws from 2017. This is a total new set of bylaws. It's dictated by the Military Veterans Assistance Act. There were significant enough changes to warrant new bylaws, which must reflect compliance with all laws at the time they were established, including the General Non-for-Profit Corporation Act of 1986. Because the Non-for-Profit Corporation Act requires the corporation to have board of directors, the bylaws provide for the board. But to assure no violation of the new restriction on delegating commission authority to a subgroup, the board is advisory only. That is the board for the non-for-profit or the corporation. You can see that in the bylaws there, in that Article 3, paragraph 1. The bylaws will be presented in June. Like I said, this is a new set of bylaws, so they don't have to wait for 3 months. If we were amending them, then they would have to go before, during the 3-month review process. They must pass by 2/3 of the vote, but no ramification will be given if it does not get to 2/3 of the vote. So, tonight, that's what we're discussing. We just kind of answered one of the questions that's unresolved. All the other questions in the bylaws are in there. At the core of it are following two statutes, the Military Veterans Assistance Act and the Non-for-Profit Corporation Act. I think it's the next one. If you're reading the bylaws, if there is a question, right, of conflict between the Non-for-Profit Corporation Act and the Military Veterans Assistance Act, the Military Veterans Assistance Act supersedes or takes precedence over the Non-for-Profit Corporation Act. They can't be in conflict. But where one is silent on something, then the other one applies. Does that make sense? So, like the Military Veterans Assistance Act, it says that the VACs, not just this one, may choose how they organize. In 1989, this commission, long before I was here, I was in, I think, 7th or 8th grade, chose to organize as a non-for-profit. And those articles of incorporation were filed and approved back then in 1989. And if you guys would like a copy, they are posted online, and I can get you a printed copy as well. Basically what that does is allows us to have the president, treasurer, and those people that you guys put in place to act in that advisory capacity during the in-between meetings of this second quarter meeting, third quarter annual meeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're also delegates or representatives of Post. Many of you guys know them. They would just wear two hats at two different times. Any questions on item 6? Item 7, new paragraph 9G requires the commission to adopt all applicable policies in the county. For the reasons stated in the policy or proposed policy adoption, which we're going to get to, VAC declares that none of the policies listed in the Madison County Personnel Policy Handbook 2009 and the personnel policies for the County Board Supervisory, Professional, Confidential, and Non-Union Employees 2022 are applicable, except the following: EEOC, sexual harassment, drug-free workplace, violence in the workplace, and bullying policies as modified to assure VAC MC independence And the VAMC permits but does not mandate participation in the Employee Assistance Program. And then if you look in the policy document, now I'm jumping to that one, and that lays out what happens if someone has one of those problems. Those are the 4 areas that, like, if someone needs to report me for sexual harassment or an EEOC violation, those complaints go to the state, and then those complaints, or like Earl was talking, if somebody reports me in those categories, then they're pulled out of you guys's and mine and the president and the entire commissions, and they're investigated at the state level, and the complaint is lodged there too. So, and then they do a whole series of whatever they do. I've never been investigated by that, so I don't know. But then I imagine that they would go through the process of contacting the commission. Where it gets tricky here, guys, is it says all. Adopt all. Right? In the statute, it says all county policies. I don't know, the statute says all county policies. We're saying applicable county policies. All county policies means we would have to adopt, I don't know what other county, metro, sanitary district policies on whatever they do with their people. And then over here, if another group adopts policies and the county board votes on them, then we have to adopt those within 60 days. This kind of adopts them all and then rejects them, except for those 4 there. Once again, we refer back to, we are at-will employees, and we are asking no more, no less than what the state of Illinois and the legislature has already granted to all at-will employees, no more or less, throughout the entire state of Illinois. Right? Don't break the law. So, if you want, we can hold off and do 8 and then item C and then go to the policies, or we can stop there and we can go over there and jump to the policies now and whatever you guys. There's only one more item underneath B and then the last is C. All right, so I'll just go to 8 because it's pretty simple and we've already covered it. I think somebody asked that question. The new MBA requires an annual audit that the VAMC currently already performs and makes publicly every month. If you guys go on right now, you can go to the county check register at the auditor and you can look up every bill that was paid by the VAC for the last quarter. You can do all kinds of wonderful things if you're good with tools and gadgets. And not only check out our organization, but actually go see what all these other organizations throughout the entire county are spending their money. The only numbers that are not reported, or the only names that are not provided, I should back up, is if we give, say, financial assistance to a veteran for the electricity, we're not going to tell you the veteran's name. We know who it was. We're going to say Ameren, it's going to be listed Ameren, $280 or whatever it was that went to Ameren. However, if it's a vendor or a contractual service, then who that vendor was, the amount of the check, and when it was cut is on that check register. So I encourage everyone, not only for our organization, but for all of our units of government in Madison County, go look and see what our money's being spent on.
Right.
Yes.
Just to let people know, if you go look at that, there should be a thing in there for the account. 010 is our administrative fund, and was it 120 is our aid to vets fund, or 020? Either 120 or 020 is our aid to vets fund. So it's a good way to separate those monies because we have 2 separate pots that we pull from. So that's just letting everyone know. If you do go look at that and you see something that's like 120 at the very end of the account number, then you know that's what's going for vets.
Yes. This is not just for current year. You go back until they started posting all this stuff online. It's a good piece of information overall. Like I said, we're going to come back to item 7 when we get to that section of the agenda. The last there is C, section 10 of the MBAA, which is 10A, 10B, 10C, direct how to elect a superintendent, to fill a vacancy, or to select an intern superintendent if one is ever needed, and all are addressed in Article 5, subparagraphs 3, 4, and 6. Subparagraph 3 ratified me as the superintendent, and I was elected by the majority of the full commission in December 2009. And then, it's the election. They changed that little bit to superintendent. So whether you're voting on replacement at any time, they changed it from the members or of the membership from the membership, right? And then they have to be a veteran, because then another part of the law. But this is not this is just a change. Now we can employ spouses, children of veterans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the superintendent has to be a veteran. I think the actual word is chosen from the membership of the commission. Any questions on that last page? Like I said, we could pick this apart if you had the time to read it over the last, 15 days or so. All those things in the one-page summary are in the bylaws. Those were the highlights. The one unanswered question that was out there that needed clarification was the one that you answered about the 3 posts. Any questions over the one-page summary or the bylaws, the new bylaws?
Could you remind me who it was that had drafted these bylaws? You said there was a committee before. Can you remind me who was on the committee?
There was no committee. It was Tom Burkhart, and that was addressed when we became Burkhart's for other legal matters. We've brought this up before. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not going to get into the interpretation business of what the legislature intended, and I wanted these bylaws to be solid and grounded in law.
I'd just like to ask who the very knowledgeable gentleman is. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your...
Jason Burke. I'm a temporary employee of the VAC. I do system design, programming, and accounting.
Any other questions?
Larry Miller, Delegate 1299. I have some questions on the bylaws, especially in section 6B. It talks about special membership meeting regarding another subject to be called. It doesn't say how long before we're supposed to be notified. It should be on
Which page?
page 3. I have several other ones, and I just want to make note of that.
Where is that at?
Section 6B, discretionary. A special membership meeting regarding other subjects may be called by no less than 1/5 of members. It doesn't say how long before notification needs to go to the delegates, to the commission.
I'm sorry, I'm looking on the wrong page. Oh. So if you look at I think the breakdown of the bylaws is So I think the Non-for-Profit Corporation Act is 10 days. So when it changed,
I believe that should be in bylaws then. What you've done several places through the bylaws is reference the NDAA by section. I think if that's something that's going to be done through the Non-Profit Act, that should also be identified here in the bylaws.
okay, I'll make note of it, and then if it's not in there, but
Next item I have is in section 8, page 3. Last sentence says remote attendance at membership meetings is not permitted. I think that needs to be struck.
hold on one second. Number,
Sorry.
okay, what was the next page?
Same page, section 8. Last sentence, remote attendance at membership meetings is not permitted. I think later in the bylaws you allow remote meetings from the board, but if we run into another situation with COVID where everything's locked down, our bylaws are locked into, we can't do any kind of remote meetings. I believe that needs to be struck.
Well, the governor, like in the case of COVID, when the governor signed the order, it mandated, it changed, it kind of put everything on hold as far as meetings were, the way they were carried out and everything. So I think if something specific to COVID happened again, I think that those specific guidelines would be halted at that time. And remote attendance is for the executive board, or the in-between meetings, they're advisory only. So, and to have a meeting here to where somebody can attend remotely, and you guys are actually making votes, right? If the in-between meeting, there's a vote, it goes as an advisory to me, and then it gets brought to you guys at the next full commission meeting, if it's something that gets passed out of the advisory executive board.
I still believe that should be struck. Next item I have is under Article 3, Directors, Section 2. I don't believe we should list people by name to be in the bylaws. If you have positions, that'd be appropriate. On page 5.
This was brought up numerous times, and then we kept getting requests over and over of the list of when the delegates or the officers and directors and terms expired.
I understand, but I don't believe that should be in the bylaws. Because you do identify it in the annual report, in the periodic report.
Yes, and this established just the initial term. So then this annual meeting, all of them will be elected again, so then you will not have that in there.
I still don't believe you should have individual names in the bylaws. These are my opinions.
All right, so we're going kind of fast here. So, is there anybody else have any of these kind of
I still have more items that I'd like to discuss here. Under Article 4, under officers,
What page you on now?
page 7. A person who is a delegate in their post is changed or removed or whatever. According to this particular paragraph, they're allowed to remain on the board, which kind of goes against how we have delegates and alternates. They need to be a member of a post, but they should be delegates to the commission. So if the post decides to remove a delegate or alternate, a delegate who's on the board.
You mean as an officer? Their term as an officer is different than their delegate, which
To
would
be an officer, they need to be a delegate to the commission.
at the time they were elected. So those people,
Well, where does it say that? At the time, I don't know where it says that, they're a delegate at the time they're elected. If they're
we're not a
removed, then
delegate, an officer at the time. So if an officer is elected by the commission, and then that post decides to remove them as a delegate, they are not removed as an officer. The only time they get removed as an officer is when that next, at the end of their term.
don't you need to be a delegate to be an officer?
Yes, you have to be a delegate at the time of whatever
It
applicable.
doesn't say in here at the time of election.
No, whatever applicable bylaws were in place at that director's time that they were put on that position. So like we had one, but that's the reasoning behind it. Because just because a post wants to remove a delegate doesn't mean that they're not doing a good job as an officer for the entire commission. At another
They
post.
shouldn't be a part of the commission if they're not a delegate, whether they're an officer or not. They should still not be a member of the commission.
They're part of the commission. Whether they go to VFW 1299 or wherever as a delegate, if that post removes them, they still finish out their term as an officer. The bylaws are broken into two sections. One is for the commission, and then the other one's for the officers, or the delegates and alternates or the representatives. And the other one is for officers and directors of the
I think
non-department.
that's all backwards. I'll move on. Article 4, officers, president, section 6, page 8. Where you specify what it is that the president will write in his annual evaluation. Specify that the superintendent is not performing his or her duties in a manner consistent with blah, 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 state verbatim, this is what will be in the evaluation. I don't believe that's appropriate. I believe the president should be able to make their own comments on what, for his annual report.
Yeah, they can, but there's,
They can't. It says there, according to the requirement, shall be the sole person responsible, and is now such evaluation shall consist of one line as follows.
I can't keep up with you, Larry, you're going way too fast.
Where do you want me to go back?
Yeah, I just want you to give me the page number so that everybody can go to that page number and it's a little slower.
Article 4,
Of
Water Officer, Section 6 on page 8.
Hold on, give everybody a chance.
In the first paragraph at the top, it says such evaluation shall consist of one line as follows. I believe that in the bylaws we should specify what it is the president is saying about the evaluation.
So then what would we say? The president evaluates the superintendent on an annual basis?
You can argue it as much as you want. I don't believe it should be. You ready for me to go on?
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up. Page number.
Hey, Brad.
Yep.
Through the chairs real quick. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So when I was looking at the summary, I think Larry's talking about the same thing I was talking about. So that was the concern that some of my members had at the post. They felt like if anybody's being evaluated, if that one sole person is the evaluator, they feel like that was kind of an issue, and they felt like it's, there should be maybe 3 people kind of looking at it and then collectively getting together and coming up with some type of evaluation. So, Larry, is that what you were talking about?
I'm saying that here it just specifies what it was the president will write, whether the superintendent is or is not performing his or her duties. I believe that the president should be able to choose whatever words they want to write in their evaluation, not be dictated or mandated by what's in the bylaws.
So it looks like there was more clarification there from Larry. You guys put out there. But like I said, we just gotta you gotta stay what you're talking about just so we can understand. Give us time to read too, please.
I'm asking if he's hitting on such evaluation shall consist of one line. That's it. That's the one line, and he's saying they should say more. They're going to say more. They're not just going to get that one line, right?
That's the minimum that it has to say.
That's the minimum that it has to say.
Well, what
Okay, it doesn't say that, but I mean,
the confusing part about that
it
is
must say that, at least.
the word,
Where's that mean?
Hold on a second, guys, we can't talk one at a time.
the term, the grammar dictates that it will consist of one line. So, yeah, that actually states grammatically that his evaluation will say nothing other than this very line.
Have you ever wrote an evaluation that it had one line?
Wait, no, I haven't, but
Okay,
I'm
then.
saying that legally binding, that's what this says. However, what it should say is at a minimum of this, or at least this. But to say that it will consist of one line means that by these laws, it can only say that.
So we just need to add the word, at minimum, it should state, boom, and to go from there.
So at a minimum or at least.
So such evaluations shall consist, comma, at a minimum, and comma.
No, no, we'll get into that, we'll change it later. All right. Let me go on, hold on a second, Larry. Maybe so you go slow, maybe one by. All right. Where we at?
My superintendent, page 10, section 3. Once again, we use the name, and I don't believe individual names should be part of the bylaws. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I got that noted already.
There is nothing in here about the use of parliamentary procedures during commission meetings. I believe that should be in there.
So just Robert's Rules of Order, the latest edition. I think on our website it says all meetings are governed by the latest edition of the Robert's Rules of Order.
You've got bylaw, not the website. Website.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, but we've got kind of the similar language on there, so I hear what you're saying, put it in there.
Virtually all bylaws have something about what rule of order will be used.
I hear you.
The last thing I have, and I'll be shut quiet for a little while. Under amendments, doesn't say have any indication of when the notification of proposed amendments will be disseminated to everyone.
What was that again?
Article 9 on page 12 doesn't say anything about how to notify members of the commission when there's a proposed amendment.
Of a proposed amendment to the bylaws?
What kind of notification is required, 10 days, 30 days, or whatever.
So say if it's the commission, then it would be, the proper notice would be of a special meeting. If it's a special meeting to amend it, then it would be whatever's governed by that special meeting. If it's a regular meeting, then it's like 48 hours advance notice. Change, I imagine you guys bring the change to that meeting and then it will be discussed, amended.
Yeah, in most places that I've seen, I have the bylaws about amendments that indicates what the time frame is, that amendment should be submitted prior to the vote on it. Sorry, I talked so fast. You're fine. Let's get through.
I don't hear fast. Notification. So there's multiple areas in there about the notification and stuff like that. We got it. All right. Good.
Yeah, Brad, so I'm bringing these questions from my membership, and this one was brought up this evening to me. So kind of building off of what Larry said, we got this package, I don't know, 15 days ago, and it's a lot to absorb. You know, I've read it over a couple times, and the one thing that was brought up was, is there something that's out there that says we should receive something like this of this significance, X amount of days out, X amount of weeks out, you know, a month out? Is there anything out there that states anything like that at all? Thank you.
I'm not a lawyer, but we can ask that question. You said the time frame.
Yes, sir.
So on a new set of bylaws, I think it was 10 days to get them out, right? An amendment is different. Amendment stays out there for the, you know, you got to send out the the proposed amendments, and then it's got to go through the regular run of the mill. And that timeline is, I think, three months. But I can ask that question. But it's just that we were.
Yeah, this was brought up by several members of my post. We were down there reading it over a stack of beers, so we were trying to just kind of absorb it and all that stuff, and we were just trying to figure out a time frame of when we should have received it. That's all.
What do you recommend?
What's that?
What do you recommend? Pay time.
30
you said
30 days.
Sorry.
30 days notice. There's a lot here.
All right.
Yeah, no, because you're reading and you're bouncing back and forth between the.
I just think, sorry, just get the.
So no, we're just going down
the
through,
time frame, that's what we understand.
we're just going down through a couple of the questions. I'm gonna just, when I highlight, I want to get to your Skip, but I'm gonna just, putting in there. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. We're gonna try this over the microphone. All right, can you hear me? Hello?
Test 1, 2, 3, test 1, 2, 3, I can hear you, yeah.
All right, so we've been going through the bylaws, trying to capture some of the changes. We've pretty much made it down to the last bit. Then there's a couple questions. I apologize if I didn't capture them right, but I'm just going to go down the questions, and if you have answers to them, you can give the full commission right now. That would be great. I'm just going to start. For a special meetings, what's the number of days for the notice? Underneath page 3, discretionary, B, discretionary.
Just turn to it.
Larry, if I get the question wrong, you'll help me out. For future questions, if I get the question wrong, help me clarify.
Well, it's fine. It's a minimum number of days notice, so you have to set it out for 5 days. If you read that, it says within 24 hours of receipt of such a call, the corresponding secretary of the commission with the assistant of the BAC office staff will cause a record vote notice to be sent to all delegate representatives and their alternates in accordance with section 107.15 of the Non-Profit Corporation Act of the date, time, and place. Now, that section 107.15 requires a minimum of 5 days notice and a maximum of 60 days notice. So that's designed to give people adequate notice of the meeting if there is going to be a special meeting.
Okay, and does that need to be any more spelled out in there like that, just like what you said?
I don't think so, because it refers to section 107.15 and record voting notice. Those are legal terms that mean just what I said, not less than 5 days, or more than 60 days. Notice.
If I might,
Everybody will get at least 5 days notice when it's a real urgent thing. But it's really up to what is available.
I understand the answer was
5 days notice.
because it's identified in a not-for-profit act, we don't have to specify it in the bylaws. In the same respect, we've got a lot of other areas where we have references to the sections of the NDAA. Why can't we just have, if it's 5 days, why can't we put in the bylaws 5 days?
So he's asking, can we just put that in there, the 5 and then the max 60 in that section?
Yeah. If we'll read something off, we'll call it record voting notice to be sent to all delegate representatives and their alternates, not less than 5 days prior to the meeting date, no more than 60, something along those lines.
Okay. And then Skip, just so we're on this kind of same questioning line, what was your question about the notification or the time frame of the notice of these new amendments? I think I answered 10 days.
So yeah, my membership was asking me to bring up, in this meeting, the adoption, the policy adoption, the bylaws, the one-page summary. We received this, I would say roughly 15 days ago. There's a ton of information in here. The concern is there's a lot of information in here, and talking with different host members, we kind of want to absorb it and discuss it and bring some recommendations. As a delegate, we feel that 15 days was somewhat short. We feel like that maybe at the minimum of 30 days, we would like to be able to get it, absorb it, or maybe even between the quarterly meetings. But I just didn't know if there was something in there that states we would have to receive all this stuff and be able to absorb it to make a good vote before the commission.
Did you hear his question, Tom?
I did, and I'm very conscious of that. We were hoping and you and I discussed that, Brad, but the problem is we can only act at a membership meeting. The state law requires it be passed at a membership meeting where a quorum is present. The next membership meeting is September. Last September, we did not have a quorum. I don't know if that's a bad month for everybody or whatever, but you run, the only downside to postponing action on the bylaws or on any of this is the fact that you may not have a quorum next meeting. And there was no time. The question is whether there was a time limit for this kind of action set forth in the act, like we have to pass these within a certain period of time. There is not. So if that's the question, and you'd like to, you would like to postpone, that's fine. I just call it, you and I talked about this, Brad, about how this might, if you have a quorum and you can get a majority vote, but that assumes everybody understands what they're voting on, it's better to get it out of the way. But if you're sure you're going to have a quorum at the next meeting, then yeah, you could have up to 30 days, or you could call, everyone could agree tonight to adjourn this meeting and call it back in less than 30 days, less than 15 days, so you have a total 30 days to do it, but then everybody's got to come back. See what I'm saying? And you have to reconvene with another quorum. So that's the only downside, is the question of once you get a quorum, and you want to vote on it, then you can vote on it. If you don't, you feel like you're just crunched, because everyone, the majority of people there feel like they're crunched for time, then you can postpone it, or if you want, I guess, then wait and hope that you get another quorum in the September meeting.
Yeah, I think, so there's
Did that answer the question?
yeah, I think so. I just want to jump, because that was just one question that came up again, so. Page 5, Article 3, Directors, not listing the election, the name, the office, and the term expiration. My explanation on that one was, well, one of the representatives said it should not be in the bylaws, and I just said that was there just this one time to establish the date of their term expiration, so that it's, because we kept having this question asked, like, meeting after meeting and in between meetings, and it became the topic of FOA requests and everything else. We just wanted to put it out there. Did you get that question?
Is the question whether they can be in the bylaws?
Or do they have to be? Or should not?
That statement,
This came up in
that
a multiple.
statement of fact, these are the people that were elected on those dates, and that's when the terms expire, lets the membership
Jake, was at a minimum or at least? Adding that to, was added pertaining to the evaluation of the superintendent, correct?
Yes.
At a minimum or at least, yes or nay, yay from the president.
Where are you talking about? 6?
I got it wrote at the bottom of the page, my arrow might be.
It's in the first paragraph.
First paragraph,
Middle of the first paragraph.
middle of the first paragraph.
On page 8?
Yes, top.
Such evaluation.
Yep, such an evaluation shall consist of, it's like 4 sentences down, page 8. Making it at a minimum or at least adding that.
Well, I've printed the files out. You have to help me out, because my page 8 doesn't have that on it.
It's pertaining to the evaluation of the superintendent.
Okay, I've got, this is where I've got section 6, article 4.
Yes.
And it says the president shall be the sole person responsible for annually evaluating the superintendent, as is now required by section 9B of the NCAA. Such evaluation should consist of one line as follows: the superintendent is not
So
formally.
right there, it would have been, right there would be at a minimum or at least.
Oh, I don't care, that, yeah.
Okay.
If you want to handle, that doesn't do anything to change the legal effect of that sentence.
And then,
Well, that's okay.
page 10, specific names again, that was what we addressed with me. We answered that one. Adding somewhere in the bylaws that our meetings are governed by Robert's Rules of Order. I think we had that on, that verbiage throughout our other documents and stuff, so. It's not anywhere in there right now, it would be an addition.
Okay, that, we can do that.
See if I missed something.
I still had a comment about the, if a person is removed as a delegate from their post, I believe they should no longer be an officer of the commission.
Yeah, this was brought up in previous meetings about the delineation between a delegate continuing to, or an officer continuing to serve that is not a delegate. My explanation was that the officers are governed by the rules that at the time, that were in place at the time that they were elected as an officer. And it's not contingent upon when they were removed as a delegate, or a representative.
Well, if I might add just one other, what I consider to be more vital as far as being a representative organization. Officers are elected by the entire membership. Delegates are selected by a single post. So if the officer gets disqualified because a single post changes their delegate, which they have the right to do. But if a
make sure we ran through all of those, the ones you had right there, right? Right.
I've got a question on the same topic. So the description that Mr. Burkhardt gave sounds a lot like an opinion. Is there some place that we could reference in current policy that states that that applies to us now?
Before you finish with the point, I can repeat it. You go ahead and
So the explanation that Mr. Burkhardt provided sounded a lot like an opinion. Is there some place that we can reference that that applies to us currently or in the last revision of the bylaws? Or some place that we could reference it that would give us some ease in understanding that that is correct and that should apply to our current recommended set of bylaws?
So I think we've tried to answer this, Tom, correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's set up the same as the way we elect our representatives in our form of government right now in a federalist, right, system. Is that correct?
Yes. I didn't hear the question.
The question is there somewhere else that we can look to where, you know, the difference between a delegate and an officer, and, you know, we talked about this where, like, somebody can remove, Madison County may get rid of their senator, or vote out their senator here in Madison County, but that doesn't remove the senator from the entire state.
That's correct. That's kind of, that was the argument I was trying to make with regard to the delegate. I mean, that's just
So you look to the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution. The U.S. Constitution sets up that framework, right?
Well, it does in Congress and the Senate, the House of Representatives. But that's generally, I mean, if a county sheriff gets elected to the sheriff's position, Hamilton Township or Woodriver Township can't unelect him. You know, even if they had unanimously did it, you have to get the vote of the entire county to run them out of Dodge or whatever. So, once elected by, you're judged by the entire group that elected you, not by a part of it, even though there are subdivisions of the entire membership, i.e. each post. If you get the vote of the entire membership, that's just the way it is. And I don't know what, I mean, that's the way we set up in the bylaws. If those bylaws are passed, and that frankly, that's the way it was pretty much set up in the past, those bylaws become the source of that rule. And you want to make it as clear as possible to people so they understand that is the representative form of government that we choose to go with, you know, or the representative form of organization. I think that's what they call it in the Act. Your organizational characteristics or something like that.
Sure.
Organizational structure.
Sure. So just so that I understand, what you had stated was that it's not current policy and it's not written in these proposed, so that it doesn't exist and doesn't currently apply to us. I think, as Mr. Miller was suggesting, if the commission chooses for that to apply, it needs to be written into the bylaws to say as such.
Did you hear that?
No, I did not.
So,
Can you repeat it?
if that's the way we choose to operate, does it need to be spelled out exactly like that? That if an officer is on the commission and opposed to removes them as the delegate, it does not remove them as an officer. Do we need to spell that out specifically like that in the bylaw?
That's a decision for this commission to make, not necessarily someone else.
I just proposed a question.
The answer to the question is, do you need to? I thought it was, but it would be a bad idea. I thought it was in there somewhere. Because that's the section we're compared to.
So I mean, I don't have no problem. I think we get the gist of it. Would that answer the question? I mean, I'm writing all this down. We're going to come back to it, just like we did with the different three. We can can talk about it and vote on it, and you guys decide. That's the way we wanted to do this, so. With the understanding that everybody's got its sleep. Anyway, Tom, I think we got that question answered. I think we know enough to where we could come to a resolution, the commission can come to a resolution and answer that, whether to put that specifically in the bylaws or not. Before I get them off the phone, anybody else? Questions of legality?
Oh, here you go. Let me make a statement.
Wait a minute, what page?
It is specifically in there. It's in section 2
What page?
of Article 3. Talking about the records. Hold on a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Page 5, I think.
This is different.
It's right underneath where the grid of the existing officers is.
Is it in the footnote or in the paragraph right below?
It's in the paragraph right below.
All right, so on page 5 of ours, underneath the box,
Yeah. It says, to be a director, a person must be properly seated delegate, not alternate, representative of any member at the time of their election. That spells it out pretty clear. And then it goes on to say, because directors and officers are elected by the membership and their term is intended to be for 4 years, absent resignation of the effective director, a change by a member of its annually selected delegate will not disqualify a sitting director/officer to continue his or her term as such director or officer as long as he or she remains a member of the BSO operating within Madison County. So I thought I put that in there. It's spelled out expressly, and I think that very well spelled out.
okay.
Thank you, that did provide a lot of clarifications. I'm glad that it's in the proposal. That also clarifies that it's not the old version and not the current. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Tom. I think we're
I'm
good.
sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry to be
Oh, that's fine.
wrong.
But it's going all right. We're getting wrapping up the bylaws and then the policy. But while we got you on the phone, we're about ready to move to the policy adoption document. And I just wanted to explain the difference. Maybe you could reiterate, there wasn't, when we went down the one-page summary, there wasn't a lot of the policy adoption area, except for the one-page summary on page 7. I made a note about the difference between the way the amended NDA stated that we must adopt all versus all applicable.
MBA says all applicable.
So it says all applicable, and as a result, if the VAC membership does not believe a policy applies to them, well, and it gets worse than that. First of all, let me endorse your statement that their trailer bills and train wreck, and it costs quite a confusion. And even the assistant state's attorney, Livingston, said the same thing. In any event, they say that the employees and the superintendent are at will. They can be fired at any time. Well, if you're at will, then they do the law, the case law about at will employment. It's putting all these, adopting a policy to the county to deal with union employees makes no sense at all. So you have to decide with the idea that the legislature is mandatorily requiring people to be at will. Not all of their policies, none of their policies really, except the EOC policies, which include sexual harassment, all bad. That's still there, and that's in the policy adoption. So, but the rest of them, they're not applicable, and the law requires you to adopt applicable policies only. And if it's not applicable, you're not supposed to adopt it. That's the way the new law reads.
All right.
So we found a couple, but that was it.
So, thank you. Just if you hang tight, and I'll call you back if we need you.
Yeah, I'm available. If you can call back, let me know meeting's over so I can, grab a beer. The deal is over. All right, take care.
All right, so, let's go back. So some of the questions were answered, some of the ones, we can, put in there about pretty much everything that we talked about, right? Except for the ones that are already mentioned, right? Is there any, hold on a second, Rick. Is there any discussion over any of the stuff that we just talked about before we add anything, or add any new topics or any new questions?
Dennis Baylor from Warden. I would like to make a motion that we take the names out of the bylaws.
Okay.
Because there really isn't any need to have them in there. We can read the bylaws and know what elections we do, and the names would be something in the report, not in the bylaws.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, guys, anybody have any problem with that?
I'll second that motion. Skipper, post 5691.
All in favor on that one? What was it? Removing the boxes with the dates and the names, like you said, and removing specific references to people. Okay. Anyone else? All right. I don't want to leave anybody behind, but we're going to close with ones that we just answered the questions on. There's going to be a series of them. So, does anybody have any? We got a second on that one? All in favor on that one?
Aye.
Any dissent? Passed. All right. You, Earl, we got one. Motion passed. Yes, Skip?
Yeah, Brad. So I brought up the time frame to receive the package so we can absorb it and take it all in. I guess that's still kind of an open question because.
Yeah, I mean, so my process and thought was behind this was, and I know we've talked about this at different times and different things. Like Burkhardt said, these can stay out there. The only difference is these are a new set of bylaws, so they're not governed by the amendment factor of bylaws. So I have no problem with this. If you guys want to come back, and like he said, set a 30-day meeting here at this meeting to come back, we can do that. If you guys want to wait until September, but then, like he said, we might not have a quorum. Because no offense to everybody here, I know this is I agree, Skip, this is a lot to digest. And it's a lot to digest because we wanted to make sure that we did it right, and it is important. And so, but I'm looking out in the audience and I see heads nodding right now. And the reason why I wanted to address a lot of this stuff now is why we have it tonight. Because we have a good, really good turnout. And we might not get it just like we did last September. So.
No, this is good. This is good for the discussion. I've learned more tonight than I probably learned in I don't know how many meetings. My personal feelings is just talking with my membership at Collinsville, I would like to be able to come back and do a further discussion on this. I think it would be good. And that would help clarify some stuff and hell, I go back my membership, I probably come back with a half a dozen questions. I don't know if everybody else thoughts about it, but I'll shut up.
Okay. So, hold on a second. We'll address that once we get through some of the questions that were answered tonight, okay? Brad.
Yes, Brad, so I had a question about the policies. So the policies that are in this recommended version, you had said that Tom had drafted.
So you're talking about the policy, policy adoption, right?
All of the policies that are applicable to the commission. So my question is, who decides, or who has decided for us, which policies apply to the VAC?
Well, there's multiple policies at different units of government within the county. The statute said we have to adopt them all.
All applicable.
No.
All applicable.
Yes. So what's an applicable policy? It can't be something that's in conflict with the at-will clause of the legislature, that they've determined what and who is at-will, right? So if it's in conflict with that, which a lot of their policies are, because then that would mean that if you read the county board policy manual, right, that dictates just their office or department. Well, theirs gets appealed to the personnel department. Well, if we adopt that, that doesn't make any sense because we're at-will employees and they're not.
So I understand that, but who's making that decision? That was the question. Who's deciding for us which policies we're going to adhere to?
Well, the legislature said that an at-will employee can't be given no more, no less than what's granted to them in the statute for an at-will employee.
You're not answering the question.
Maybe I'm not understanding.
So when we sit down as a commission and we look at all of the policies that the county has, there are some that even yourself and Mr. Burkhart pointed out do apply to us, like the EEOC and some other things. So who is picking those out and saying, well, these apply to the commission, these apply to the commission, but the rest of these don't? Who's doing that?
Let's back up. Let me rephrase it with another question. Can you give me an example?
So you state that the organizational structure isn't exactly the same between the county and the BAC. That is uncontested, we understand that. But the county does have policies for non-union workers. And the workers of the BAC are also non-union. So it would stand to reason that some, maybe not all, of the policies that apply to the county's non-union workers may also apply to the BAC's.
But they're not governed by the at-will.
That doesn't necessarily preclude them from still being.
Yeah, so agreements, like an at-will or a non-union employee, I don't know, I'm not a personnel employee or labor attorney or whatever, but an at-will employee doesn't get agreements. This is what we talked about with the superintendent. If you're at-will, how can you have a grievance procedure? Because you're at-will. The at-will is, we don't like what you did, gone. There's no grievance procedure that can trump the at-will.
Respectfully, I'm not talking about grievance procedures. I'm just asking who is screening the policies.
Well, the policies are out there.
So who is choosing which ones apply to us?
All applicable.
Somebody got it. Somebody said we are. The commission, that's the right answer.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Which ones would we, give me an example of which one?
Ask them a question instead of leading them.
Yes.
You're not leading them. You are leading them. Ask them a question.
Jason.
Procurement.
I've asked
You're out of
multiple
order.
times,
Hey,
very specifically.
Jason, you're not a delegate. You got an alternate?
Procurement.
I'm going to leave.
Now, that's all I want to know is who's choosing it.
So hold on.
If they're choosing them for them, why is the commission not choosing which policies we feel apply to us?
Which one would apply? That's what I'm asking you. Like which one would you, if you had to choose one out of all of them, because the two, or the documents that we determined from are listed in that policy document. Have you read those and seen which one applies, which one you think would apply and not apply? That's why I'm asking you.
They do have opinions regarding what I think would apply, but you're telling us that it's already been done, which is why you have a policy.
That's why we're here talking about this. We're not even to this document.
You still haven't told me who chose for us, which one it was. The verbiage in the document from Mr. Burkhart states that they've been weeded out, they don't apply. So I'm assuming that he's choosing which ones apply to us.
Yeah, it's good, these are your terms. I didn't sort through these.
You could have said that, save us some time.
What was that?
He answered his own question. Who picked him out? He said Mr. Burkhart picked him out. There you go.
He did.
It's Mr. Burkhart, not a member of the commission.
He picked them out, put them in here, and this is what we're talking about.
How we can change it?
Unless it's in conflict with what the legislature said.
Right.
He bases, yes, he bases it based on the law.
Of at-will employees.
Of that, well, that's what we have.
Correct.
Yep. And sorry. All right.
The threshold is at a county policy.
It's,
I think the question is, how is the commission going to be made aware of what the policies are and what policies we should adopt and not adopt?
And those are the four that he laid out. EEO. Hey, you guys up there talking. Get out. EEO, policy on sexual harassment, violence in the workplace. Am I missing one?
Bullying.
Bullying. Thank you. And those are the ones that I won't tolerate either, right? So those are the policies. If it's in conflict with, I'm sorry, what was your name?
Tim Connell.
Tim, like he
Legion
said,
Post
if
126.
it's in conflict with the at will, right, the legislature determines that an at-will employee will get no more, no less than another at-will employee. But like I said, I'm not a labor attorney, but those are the ones, it's in direct contradiction. Same way when we answered earlier about the superintendent, the removal of a superintendent. The original statute said that I was at will. You guys didn't need to come up with 3-member post, remove the superintendent and all that stuff. It confused things. So that was a question of law, of conflict.
Who will actually adopt the policies? Will it be us, will it be a vote from the delegates? Or will somebody, an officer, look at the policies and say this applies, this doesn't?
These are the ones that apply are EEO.
Listed in here already.
Yes, EEO, sexual harassment, bullying, and violence.
And if they change and the county adopts new policies, will we be able to see that and look at it and
But if
decide if it applies?
it's in those other governmental units, then it doesn't apply to us. Because they're not, because then you get to the overarching principle, we are not county employees.
Okay. You see, my problem is I'm going to vote and I'm going to say I'm going to adopt this all applicable policies, but I don't know exactly what those policies
Yeah.
are. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, and that's, and then the legislature confused it more by saying that we're not, and it was in this, it was always in the Military Veterans Assistance Act, that VAC employees are not employees of the county. So you can't, if we're not employees of the county, then you can't adopt their policies. Because they're in direct conflict with what the legislature's saying.
Thank you very much.
I know, man, I'm doing my best here. All right. Anybody else? Okay.
Brad, a lot of these guys said what I was going to say, but
Say what?
the thing over there is, I think the way we're going to
I
resolve
can't hear you guys.
the way we're
Somebody
going to
with
resolve
their
this.
microphone on. Hold on, you can't hear you. There's somebody with their microphone on, you guys. Can you speak up a little, sir?
Yeah. I think the way we're going to resolve this is the fact of it is, if we'd have done it in January, what I asked you to do in January is that when that trail policy was adopted on the 15th of January, if we'd had the delegates and the alternates, if we'd have got together and had someone to come in to explain our position as an executive board and commission in these situations, we could have got to some of these policies what we get to now, and we'd be able to make a vote. So now, as it stands now, I would rather suspend any type of votes that you have now and have someone to come in with reference to what Skip's saying, so we can go over some more of this information. Other organizations say they haven't got the information that you sent out in the 15 days, so they haven't had time to go over a lot of this information. So I'm recommending, I'd like to make a motion that we do.
Well, we're not, hold on, we're not there. We're not there yet.
If you understand where I'm coming from.
Yep, we're still discussing some of these. Oh. Ronnie, yes. All right.
Okay, I'll hit on the policy thing and that'll be it as far as me, but the policies, if you've ever seen Madison County policies, it's huge. Okay, it is one massive book, all right, because they're a massive government and their entity, all right? And that will policy is very small because an at-will employee is not subject to all that. And especially with the VAC, which is not supposed to be, like you said, a part of the Madison County government. That is why we can only adopt certain policies, which are the four. So the applicable policies that we can get, we had to basically, the lawyer and Brad had to basically just earpick them out because the other ones don't apply to us. You know, and that would be the certain wearing of the uniform for the deputies. I mean, when they say all policies, they mean how the deputy wears his badge, how he polishes his boots before uniform. All those are Madison County policies. How the chairs should be polished and set up for a board meeting. How this is reserved for department heads. That is all in a policy in a book in Madison County.
And there has been, there are other counties out there that VACs are doing that. They're sitting around, and I hope you guys don't choose to do this, and adopting 194-page policies.
Correct. I mean, these policy books are huge. And if, you know, there's no reason that we need to have any of that. I mean, I'm not the department head. But what they did was they just picked out what was applicable to an at-will situation, which is our group being the VAC, and put it into effect for us.
Yes. And then there was always, you know, right, this came up multiple times. If the superintendent's bad and treating their employees bad, and I don't do anything about it, or Ronnie, not just tonight, but in other meetings, and we heard it multiple times. On page 3, it lays out who they file a complaint to. It takes it totally, I think I said this earlier, it takes it totally out of my hands, takes it totally out of them, and then it goes through that process that's dictated by that entity who oversees that specific policy or complaint or violation. So, I know guys, this is a lot, and I'm just here to facilitate here. If you guys want to come back at this, that's fine. My only concern is the same thing that Burkhart addressed. We might not get a quorum. Some of you guys maybe will leave out here more disinterested, and we don't want that to happen. So we hopefully, I know it's getting late, we hopefully answered a lot of questions. I know there is ambiguity in the statute. I didn't change that statute. I wish they would have never did the trailer bill. And I think in one of the documents it said, since this has been in place for over 100, I think it's in the other document, in like 107 years, the AG's office has never stuck their nose into this. And then now here they are, and this is what we got. And when they should have, because when I was pressing to get it right, before we took it to the legislature, they only put, and this is on the record, and I tried to get that record, but I was denied. They said that they only put 55 hours. 55 hours into that amendment in trailer bill. And I can tell you that I put months into this and reviewing this, and years into reviewing the Military Veterans Assistance Act and learning inside now. And I know my point is it's difficult. If it's taken me that long to understand it, and we tried to break it down, and that was our attempt at the one-page summary, just so we can look at the highlights. The other, the last document, which we're probably not going to get to tonight, is tying it all together. So there's a last document there. So we've documented all of the questions, and then we had Burkhart answer them. I did reflect them in the changes. I'm sure he did too, as well, for the recommended changes. It's up to you guys at this point.
Will we receive an updated bylaws before we vote on it?
You can't. I mean, you guys can do like we just.
I mean, with the changes that we voted on tonight.
Yeah. So the changes that you voted on tonight, they are already a matter of the record because they're reflected, will be reflected in the meeting minutes. Right? So if you come back and I don't change them, and you come back and you're like, wait a minute, we didn't change it, the meeting minutes is the reflection of those being changed and amended right now, or updated right now. The meeting minutes are the record, and the voting record.
Larry Miller, Delegate 1299. I move we table the consideration of the bylaws until the September meeting.
Second.
Well, we have,
Hold on, slow down. Wait, Skip, just get back. You got discussion. All right. So there's a motion on the floor that we table them until September. Larry Miller.
We're gonna table
I
them
second.
to what? Why are we tabling?
Wait, did we get a second on that motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Who said yes? Earl Watts? All right, now you can, any discussion?
I have a discussion. Why are we tabling the bylaws?
Yes, we-
Larry?
Typically, as far as Roberts, you don't talk to me, talk to the chairman.
Okay. Well,
I
you
asked
asked.
to us to table that so that we can see the updated and corrected bylaw.
The,
Any more discussion? No, go ahead. Don't give up. We don't want you to give up.
no, it's, I don't give up. It's part of, it's in the record. You just stated it. It's in the record of the minutes that it's already been corrected.
Yes,
So we know it's corrected.
yes,
They want to see it printed.
yes. Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
can go back and make these changes tomorrow and mail them back out, but
That's
you're
fine.
right. The record
I get
is,
it.
the record is the minutes.
Dennis Baylor, Post 564. I would like to table it because that gives me time to take this back to my post, whom I represent. And I'm not ready to vote on it tonight.
Yeah, like I said earlier, through the discussion, I've learned a lot. I'm kind of listening to everybody's perspectives. I would like to come back on July 18th at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday. That's my recommendation. That's roughly 30 days from now. We can continue the conversation.
Hold on, but the motion on the floor is to table it until the September meeting.
Can I amend that?
No.
Vote away. I vote no.
You can amend my motion without,
What was that?
Robert's Rule of Order, he may amend a motion without my agreement.
Would you like to amend that, his motion to propose that we come back together within 30 days?
Yes, I would.
All right. Well, what's the date? Now, hold on. The 30 days is very vague. I'm not saying.
No, I got a date, time.
All right. So I know we want everybody to come back. Don't get discouraged. But this is just another motion. You guys, somebody else can table this motion, or not table it, but once it
I would like to amend the motion, if everybody's okay with it, July 18th, that's on a Tuesday, at 6:30 p.m. And that's 30-ish days out. Right here. This is a good place to have this type of discussion, so that's my recommendation. I think going 3 months out is I can't remember what I did last night.
All right. So there's a motion to come back July 18th. Any discussion? We need a second.
I have some, sorry. Ron Cudini, Post 113, Granite City. What about people on vacation? They may not be able to make it in July. I'm leaving that particular day for Jamaica. Not that I'm, it should be just because of me, but I'm sure there might be other people on vacation at the same time. And I'd like to be here for the discussion later.
And the other point is too, some new people may show up to the next one and they got the backup and pick them up. So that's just something to consider too. So. All right, wait a minute. It's like
No, if is it me?
yes.
No, you've already made the motion.
No, no, are we on discussion?
Yes.
The discussion was, if we are going to have this roughly 30 days out, maybe the VAC can send out an updated, hey, this is what we talked about, just kind of a good overview, which would be great.
We would add in all the stuff that you guys voted and talked about, and we did.
Give you time, I mean, you only have like, if they only send it out, you only have like 15 days to read it.
They can send numbers out on.
Look what happened last meeting.
Or roughly.
And redo the bylaws.
Nobody got,
What was that? Sorry, Bradley. Go ahead, Rick.
Look what happened last meeting, Bradley. I didn't even get the notification until the meeting was over with.
Yeah. And we mailed them out, and that was the vote, all right?
amen to that.
So back in the last quarterly meeting, we had decided as a commission that the proposals would come out at this meeting and that we wouldn't vote until September. That was the original plan.
Yes.
I think that would be beneficial for the commission as several people have concerns. I would just like to add or recommend that after we get the updated list of the corrections that are being put in tonight, that we also get the opportunity to send in additional corrections and maybe ask you to have those. Like here were some suggestions that came up in between the last meeting, so we have them in September.
I think we've answered the questions that we had here tonight, right?
Yes.
Because what we can't continuously do is come back with new questions. Because then we just keep, like Burkhardt said, we can keep kicking the can down the road, which is fine. But we accomplish nothing. So the questions that were out there tonight, everybody, I will go back and draft those. But we have a motion on the floor to table it until July 18th.
You have the amendment to dispose of first.
September.
In September. Dispose of the amendment first.
You have to vote on the amendment before you vote on the motion.
All right. The amendment was,
At the meeting in July.
yeah, that's the amendment of Skip. To hold the next meeting to review the draft again that I would update and get back out. I just don't know if July 18th is going to be enough time for that. But all in favor,
You gotta have a second first.
or a second to Skip's motion of July 18th, sorry.
Nobody seconded it.
You voted on the amendment, correct?
Dice lack of a second.
Okay. Died for lack of a second. Original motion to table it till September, which is the next quarterly meeting.
I second it.
I said,
Wait a minute, slow down. We have a second. Any discussion? We already had some discussion about waiting the 3 months or till September. Anybody else? We got a motion and a second. All in favor of tabling it until September?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carried. So, that was for the bylaws. We're going to do the same thing for the policy. Or are we good on the policy? These were all two separate agendas.
I just kick it off till September.
Would it be, question if I may, would it be feasible to have the lawyer here next time? Instead of doing it, if he would, I don't know, man, but I know he's busy and he's got a family. Besides, he's
But
he's
this is,
here.
the problem with that is then we just turned into a legal back and forth, and then you got people that are not lawyers arguing with the lawyers.
We need a sergeant warrant.
Wait a minute, we're gonna get to the policies. All right. Well, we kind of already went through the policies.
There you go, delegate 1299, I move we accept the policy.
We got a motion by Larry and a second by Larry accept the policy adoption.
One piece of discussion on that. In your policies, are you, somehow, how do you identify vacations or time off or sick time or personal time? Should that not be in the policies?
All of that is automatically calculated by payroll, based on the person's hire date. Those are all the things that,
Isn't that a policy that we said we're discounting all the county policies?
we can't override the pay system. So it's based on when the person gets hired, it's based on,
So that it should the policy say that we abide by the county payroll? First of all, the MBAA said accept all applicable policies.
yes.
Then there's a couple of items that were in there that they're not going to do because we're not accepting all the county policies. But now you're saying that we're using county policies for payroll.
No, the payroll system is the payroll system for all employees. That's the payroll system that we use.
But
But,
say that the
but somebody else,
employees aren't counted?
yeah, but somebody else may
No,
get
they're not.
bonuses and different things that we get. All right, so we have a motion on the floor and a second to adopt the policies. Larry and Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed or any opposed? Motion carried. All right. Thank you guys for bearing with us here.
One thing. Too late.
All right. We're on 5D. I think we've given everybody the opportunity to openly talk. At this time, the chair will recognize representatives of members who wish to be recognized for the purpose of any matter of the membership to address issues pertaining to personnel matters, religion, partisan politics, and tolerance.
Third bill, 1299. Commission of the Intent of Veteran Assistance Commission is to provide needed services to military veterans and their families. I heard a rumor today that there was a veteran that came in for services, and he was to try to file a claim, but he was asked to do some chores in the office before he could get an appointment for the claim. I also understand that a veteran seeking to file a claim was referred to a back specialist who was a member of the board. Can you assure me that those rumors are unfounded?
Somebody came in and was asked to do chores.
Somebody came in on different occasions, is what I understood. A veteran came in seeking an appointment to file a claim. He wasn't able to get the appointment until he did some chores around the office.
I'm not aware of that. Laughable.
The other one was a veteran who was seeking a claim and had a back issue and was referred to a physician, somebody who is a member of the board.
Nobody is referred to a specific doctor from our office.
Thank you. One last item is I have tickets for a Cardinals baseball game on August 6th. After the August 6th baseball game, there'll be an American Legion All-Star game between the Illinois American Legion and Missouri American Legion. $58 face value tickets for $35, and I've got them, and Ron's got some.
Thank you.
One other thing, I understand that Ron Swain here has been chosen to go on the honor flight coming up.
Does he have a return ticket?
No. Anyone else?
Do I know about this?
Put this on you. Hearing none. Thank you. Now I'll allow. Oh, I'm sorry. The back, we forgot one thing on the agenda. Thank you, Kate. Item 5C, I skipped it. Annual budget request. The request is itemized or laid out. Where's it at? request for funding that is due to the county for adoption of a budget and levy for the upcoming fiscal year 2024. That the chairman reported last year, prior to the passage of the new amendments to the Military Veterans Assistance Act. The executive board authorized the superintendent to request less than the statutory,
Mandated 2%. Let me read it.
Require the authority of the mandated 2% of the assessed valuation of all real estate in the county, if and only if the county agreed to stop obstructing the Madison County VAC's unfettered access to the surplus funds. The new amendments prohibit the executive board from acting for the membership and specifically require the authority of the entire membership to request less than the .02. Chairman then called for a motion to authorize the superintendent to request less than the statutory mandated 0.02 of the assessed valuation if and only if the county agrees to stop obstructing the VAMC's unfettered access to surplus funds. Therefore, you guys are voting to allow me to request less, if necessary, than the 0.02%. Because it says the commission has to authorize me to vote to put forth less. Yes.
I'll make a motion that we accept less than 0.02%.
If needed.
If needed.
There you go, 12.99 seconds.
Any discussion on that one?
I thought we already done that.
No. This is
Previously.
2024.
no. This is 2024. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Now, we did the item D. We'll move on to item 5E, Open Meetings Act opportunity for public address. If you would like to address, if you are a member of the public and would like to address the commission, we ask that you come down to the microphone. You'll be given a reasonable amount of time considering the time. We ask that you do not engage back and forth and just allow the member of the public to say their piece.
Good evening, I'm John Kraft, member of the Edgar County Watchdogs. I was nice and quiet up there today, for the most part, trying to be respectful. And I would just have to say that one thing politics does good when they want to push things through to their advantage, they make it all confusing. It's so confusing, you guys would never understand it, so you have to vote for it. The new amended Military Veterans Assistance Act is so confusing, nobody could possibly understand what they mean when they say the superintendent may be removed from office if, after delegates from no less than 3 different veterans service organizations file a written request. That's confusing. I know it's not confusing because the first page of the Veterans Assistance Act defines what a veteran service organization is. And that definition means a post, ship, camp, or chapter. It doesn't mean a combination of all the VFWs. VFW 1299 is a VSO. Any other 199 is a VSO. All the VFWs are not a VSO that can ask to remove the superintendent. It takes 3 posts, not 1 American Legion, 1 VFW, and 1 Marine Corps League. That's not what the law says. It's not confusing. Whoever said it was not confusing, you're correct. It wasn't. He made it confusing. They make it confusing by printing it in what they want you to adopt.
We already voted on this, who cares?
Because it violates the intent and the language of the Act. And the Act takes precedence over anything you vote for tonight. And another thing, when you're talking about policies, You're good. You're really good. I have to answer you. I should shake your hand. He points, anytime somebody questions policies, it points you right back to, well, we're not union employees. That's not what people were talking about, I believe. Do you have any vehicles? What about the vehicle use policy? Do you use internet? What about internet use policy? Is it okay to go in there and search porn all day? Or are you going to abide by the county's policy on internet use? I'm not saying anybody searches porn because I don't know. I'm not even accusing anybody of that. It's an example. What about cell phone use policy? Where you provided the cell phone? Can you just write up the bill for the hell of it without using this county cell phone policy? There's more policies than employment policies, procurement policies. Can you go just willy-nilly buy something that's $150,000 without putting it out for bid? The county's procurement policy says no. The MBA says you have to adopt all applicable policies, including procurement, including but not limited to procurement. Procurement is not one of the policies that you adopted tonight. Why? Because I brought it up at the last meeting, you spent more above and beyond what the county policy was. It's ridiculous. And I'm going to finish with this. And believe me, it pains me to say this. I take no satisfaction in saying this. But if the chairman, not you, if the chairman cannot run a meeting, the chairman needs to step down. Your employee should not be running a meeting of the full commission. He's not a member of the full commission. You are. Have you been anywhere else where an employee runs a meeting? The meeting of the board of directors? And the last confusing item, get rid of the nonprofit. It's there to confuse everybody. It's not required. And I would like somebody to show me the exact paragraph in the MVAA that authorizes you to select to be a not-for-profit organization. It's not in there. Every time you mention it, I look and it's not in there again.
Hey, Brad, is 5 minutes up yet?
Yes.
Thank you.
There was no 5 minutes. Anybody else?
I'll be back next time.
Anybody, member of the public? Hearing none. Need a motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.